Today's episode is brought to you by HelloFresh. Do you feel like you're stuck in a dinner rut? With HelloFresh, you get fresh, pre-measured ingredients with mouth-watering seasonal recipes delivered right to your door. Skip all those trips to the grocery store. Count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. You can now enjoy cooking and get dinner on the table in 30 minutes or less. With over 25 recipes to choose from each week, there's something for everyone to enjoy.
All recipes are designed and tested by professional chefs and national experts to ensure deliciousness and simplicity. Go to the link in our show notes to get $80 off, including free shipping on HelloFresh, the #1 meal kit. Hey, let's move on to part 2. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to pick a movie, and we're all going to go from the same movie now this time. And then from that same movie, we're all going to talk about how we could take something from that movie and have a lesson or a discussion in our content area. But to mix it up, I gave you guys a content area that's not actually yours. So you have to just make you think outside the box.
Now, are we still on asexual and sexual?
No, that's gone.
No,
that's gone.
We're building lessons around a movie.
Yeah, so do we want to
So
pick...
we're all in a team.
So do we want to pick Star Wars, Toy Story, or Pulp Fiction, or is there another one you guys want to nominate?
I haven't seen Pulp Fiction. I don't
What?
like violence. I don't like violence.
Oh, I saw it in an airplane once. It's a really nice movie about people just quoting the Bible. It's 15 minutes long.
But I will say, fun fact, I
Gerardo?
love the Pulp Fiction soundtrack. No, don't even. I love the soundtrack. The soundtrack's great, so I kind of understand what's happening from the
Because we can't use it,
clips.
but I'm telling you, Pulp Fiction is canon to me. Like, it is...
Abolish the canon, then.
It is... It
I
is
also
like...
don't like...
It is
I don't
top
like
five.
Tarantino for other
It is
reasons.
top 5 movies of all time. Okay, let's throw out Pulp Fiction.
That, yeah.
And so Star Wars or Toy Story. Have you seen either one of those?
Yes. I don't remember Toy Story that well, but Star Wars definitely.
Kev?
Star Wars works for me.
Okay. So,
It's easy for mine.
So to this go, I'm gonna throw you in there first because it's a softball. Okay, we're gonna let anyone take from any Star Wars movie, but if you can take from the original New Hope one, that would be the best. And so you've got to teach a science lesson, and you can teach any science lesson. But how are you going to take Star Wars and teach a science lesson?
All right, so I would definitely take the space route on that one. So we'd look at like the explosions that happen in space and break down in class whether or not that could actually happen. We'd talk about how he made the Kessel Run in under 12 parsecs and what that could possibly mean.
Okay.
And use that as a base for our vocabulary. And maybe talk about some of these small creatures, bring in some biology, and talk about how they've adapted to their climate. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so Kev, you're an English teacher in this scenario.
Easy.
So you got Star Wars. Go ahead.
Hero's Journey.
Yeah, it is kind of easy.
That's the one I came with, right? You
Joseph
teach
Campbell.
the Hero's Journey.
All the way.
Because I always hear the English teachers, they're like, Hero's Journey. You got to teach about the Hero's Journey. But I think Star Wars fits with it, right?
It does.
Maybe you also might teach character analysis. Like, that might be a cool one to teach, too, because, like, as you look at Star Wars, there's a lot to each character and the motivation. So maybe, like, Hero's Journey. I think you could, Tedesco, you're a English, ELA teacher, right?
Loser. Geek? Yeah.
You read a lot of books. You can teach
Wait,
that.
is it fair? Is he allowed to ask for help on this?
You can teach that, though. Character analysis and Hero's Journey go right together, right?
So I'm going to ask you this, then. What would you consider the droids? What literary device or what purpose do the droids serve in our story?
The droids are like the moral void. They're like like not human, right? But like objectivity, right?
Okay.
That's what they are.
Okay.
Which is one of the terms we need to teach.
I'm not even like, I'm going to do this, but I'll do this if I need to do it. I could come in.
Hero's Journey, the concept of the Hero's Journey was created by Joseph Campbell.
Yes.
And Joseph Campbell was George Lucas's professor in college and helped him write New Hope.
So I got it.
Wait,
I got it.
is that
I'm
right?
on the
Is that right? Joseph
Wow.
Campbell helped write that?
Yeah,
That is
nice.
Look at
incredible.
me.
I did not know that.
Ballin', to quote Jim Jones.
Okay. Roberto. So you're our math
What did you
teacher.
even do? I don't even know what you did.
He dunked.
I just said hero's journey. That's it. That's all I need. That's what I needed to know. I paid attention in my intro level language arts class in college.
Yes.
This is like you saying, like, feeling proud because you remembered mitochondria as the powerhouse.
Yes.
So
George Gregor Mendel. That's
I know economics, supply and demand, right? There's economics.
Dude, I was the kid in the class who'd just say what I knew, and then I'd be like, I contributed something.
And then the teachers would be like, wow, Kevin.
Wow,
he's
Kevin's
so
really
smart.
into this.
Just raise your hand, teacher calls and you say, I agree.
Gregor Mendel.
This is gym class. Yeah, but
So let Gerardo teach us math lesson
why
for
don't
Star
we
Wars.
have PE on this? PE.
I don't know.
Yeah, PE would be better.
But I'll do. Okay, so mathematics. Math is complex. There's a lot of math out there. Am I right?
Yes, that's true.
I feel like I'm right.
This is
I feel like I'm
long
right. So here's where I struggle because I think that there's a couple of different approaches to take. So I think about all the maneuvers of the Millennium Falcon, right?
Mhm.
And so when you think about the physics of that vessel, this is where I don't know where to put physics, like whether it's math or science. I kind of view it as math.
It's both. It's both. It's a lot of math.
It's both.
Though. But
So
it's-
this is our interdisciplinary kind of opportunity here
Mhm.
because I think it would just be really fun to have the kids build Millennium Falcons and then, calculate like, okay, what is the mass of my Millennium Falcon? And then how do I get it to do these maneuvers without like crashing into something? And like, it has to be able to, by the way, this is a school that is funded by Jeff Bezos because I'm not going to do that otherwise.
We're building Millennium Falcons this week,
We're
kids.
all going to build our own.
Get
I
your
also
pieces.
think there's a lot
forget
of
the flux
geometry.
capacitor.
Like,
Yes.
so when you look at there's a lot of places you can go with with geometry, with measuring angles and understand. Like, I always was so surprised at how close, like, guys like Obi-Wan and Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker were to hitting each other with their, like, lightsabers. But something about how they were angled, they were like,
Yes.
like that whole kind of thing.
Yes.
So I feel like there's a geometry, but I really feel like the velocity piece is the most important, like, piece, because you've got these X-Wing fighters maneuvering through like these unbelievable spaces and trying to figure out like, okay, so how would they do that? Like, how would you have to build?
Or you could
a
find the
vessel to
volume
make
of
sure
the
that
Death
does
Star
that?
as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what it takes to cause the Death Star to, like, although wasn't
I
that
thought we were talking about Star Wars: A New Hope. I don't think the Death Star is in Star Wars: A New Hope.
the Death
It
Star
is.
is in? It is.
It is.
It's
Oh
a
my
plan
goodness.
yes.
It's
What
a
are you
Star
talking
Wars
about?
movie. At the end of it, the ship blows up.
Yeah, Luke blows it up. The first thing he.
Yeah.
Star Wars: A New Hope. Which one is that? I see
The
you gotta
original.
say-
The
The
original.
original.
Yes.
The
The
Death Star
first
the
one, also
original?
known. Yeah,
Then we
there's
can
two,
talk about-
because then they rebuild it for Return of the Jedi.
Yeah. So
Oh,
now it's my
okay.
turn to talk about history. Okay. And boom. I mean, we have got empires. We've got rebellions. We can even discuss equity because one of the big things is that Chewbacca doesn't get his medal. You know what I mean?
That's right.
He is,
That's right.
He
That's
is
right.
straight. He is straight up. We can go back to like the GI Bill and black people not getting mortgages when they come back from fighting in the battle and like boom and hit that with history. We can talk about why some people like empires and what the benefits of having empires and order and discipline versus rebels, which are like, look at this. These people, they ain't got nothing and there's a whole bunch of nonsense and
Oh,
justify like the value of a dictatorship versus
And
whatever.
What happens when there's that big power vacuum
yes.
Yep.
afterwards?
That's it.
So
I like that. I
so
like
awesome.
that.
So that was cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's great. I think it's great. Yeah, I think too, when you look at the various cultures and societies, like the thing I really love about Star Wars, both from the perspective as an historian, but also as a person who likes art, is that you've got this found galaxy, right?
Mhm, right.
Like it starts and the galaxy's been inhabited forever.
Right.
And so like the buildings are kind of, and the ships are kind of scratched up and people are just kind of going about their day to day lives. And so I would even see it's like, let's try to understand the cultures of Star Wars because you're just like literally dropped in the middle of these things. And that's what I enjoyed about the last couple of, Star Wars movies they did, because they got really sort of metacognitive about the whole thing, where it's kind of like, actually, the Sand People are sort of misunderstood, and actually these other groups are kind of misunderstood. And,
right.
So
they talked about
so
the android rights and sentient androids and all that kind of stuff.
Like forcing some really interesting questions, so.
Yeah.
People wander around and say they're the saviors aren't going to help everybody. Maybe wrong and stupid.
They might just be trying to get theirs.
Yeah.
Could be.
You just don't know. And sometimes bad guys are just deeply in need of therapy.
Yes, sometimes it's
the Adam Driver,
art school.
like exactly. The Adam Driver performance was just so amazing, because I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy has so many issues.
Yes, he does.
I loved it because it reminded me of all like the hardcore Star Wars nerds that I hate. Just flipping out over everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very emotional.
Yeah.
By the way,
so mad about everything.
I hated Marriage Story. I thought that was a stupid movie. I just want to say that. Okay.
I did not see it.
Oh God, it was like it's supposed to be this great Adam Driver thing, and I'm like, it's jerky. Anyway,
Adam Driver is just an awkward-looking thing. He looks like a gazelle that got turned into.
But some of the ladies love him. I don't know why, but the ladies love him. I guess fellas love him too. But he's
strangely constructed.
Some people find him extremely attractive. I don't see it.
Or as my child would say, "Why is he built like that?"
Why is he built like that?
He looks like his father was a birch tree, going back to our...
Which takes us back to our previous unit on reproduction.
Yeah.
Was his father, in fact, a birch tree?
Hey everyone, my name is Natalie Vardabasso, and I am a Canadian teacher and instructional designer, but most exciting of all, I am also the host of a new podcast called #EduCrush. On the podcast, I have the privilege of learning from inspirational teachers, leaders, innovators, and activists who are passionate about what education could be, but they're not just talking about it, they're actually out there making it a reality.
I then started diving in deeper with the intersectionality of math and social justice, activism, racism, because it's pervasive. Racism is everywhere.
I started with school from scratch, and I had to go into living rooms with parents and say, "Hi, how do you like me so far?"
If 2020 has taught us anything, it's that we have a lot of work to do to reimagine schools that allow each student to learn. This is the type of change that is bigger than what any one of us can do alone. But hopefully, together, we can crush it.
So, this is so weird. It happened to me one year. I had these two kids. They were both girls, and their names rhymed, and now I can't think of what their names are, but it doesn't matter. But one was a basketball volleyball player. She was like 6'3", and she was like all legs. The other one was 5'1", but was all torso. Because I didn't know it when I made the seating arrangement. I put the basketball player in front of the short girl, and when they sat down, they were the same height.
That's amazing.
It was so weird.
That is bizarre.
It was so strange.
I thought what's been interesting for me, this isn't totally related, but you said height, so I'm going to make that connection.
Yeah.
As I'm meeting people in person that I've only seen on Zoom, it's wild. Like everybody's the same height on Zoom.
Yes, they are.
And then you're just like we have a math teacher at our school, right? Like who is really tall, and I had no idea they were so tall. It's like, whoa.
Yes.
In one of my classes, I had that one kid who always had their camera on and you love them because they're the only face you got to see all day.
Uh-huh.
And it made you feel like you weren't just talking to avoid of loneliness.
Yeah.
So she didn't come in when school started, but the kids had to physically come in for finals. So for finals, she came in. I teach 7th grade. We're the same height.
That's amazing.
If I had to put down money, I would have never guessed.
I was at Space Camp last week, and
that's a cool sentence.
Everybody
Yes,
told
I know.
me, yeah, it was cool.
Is that a Teacher of the Year thing?
Tedesco, you're like the Kevin Adams of social media.
In that I'm not of social media. Yeah.
Smart.
Anti-social media.
Smart.
But my problem is, and this is why I definitely can't get our Twitter password. Mealy, never give it to me.
Okay.
Because I'll be scrolling through and somebody will post something stupid.
I give
and I'll
it
be
to
like,
Kevin. He just
well,
doesn't
now
remember.
I gotta say something.
I got it. I'm
Right.
I'm not going to let this upset me. Why would I let this upset my good day? I'm having a good day.
Oh, it's gonna fester.
I think that's fair. Although I love Twitter.
I know
I
you
love
do.
it to death.
But you, Gerardo,
You have to
to
know.
be honest, as someone who knows and loves you, you're never like shy of an argument. You're like, oh, I'm down.
I don't think, Mila, you can vouch for me. I don't think I fight with a lot of people on
You don't fight with people, but
I'll say this, Roberta, you're a little more feisty than I am. I've been burned, and I walk away, and there's people that I've muted and blocked that I won't engage in. Like this guy the other day, because I had this tweet. You never know which one's going to go viral, right? It's like
that's right.
It's
never what you think it is either.
Never.
You know, Michael Che was just saying that to me the other day.
So this tweet, I guess I should have figured it. It basically referenced teachers crying in their classroom. Okay, and so I struck a chord. Almost 3,000 people liked it, and it's got like 200,000 views and all this kind of crazy stuff. And so this guy bounces back. He's like, if you're crying in your classroom, you have a problem. Maybe you need to quit your job. Why would anyone cry in a classroom? I'm like, maybe because they care? Do you think that might be it? I don't know.
Because the bathrooms echo.
And I'm like, if I have to explain to you why someone would cry in your classroom, there's no point.
There's no point.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely people out there where it's just sort of like, you're really not trying to understand. And I think when I first got on Twitter, I think I was really earnest about it. I'm like, oh, people want to have conversations. And then, I was disavowed of that within 36 hours. And it was
not that long.
But so I just try to ask questions. I'm like, why do you say that? What makes you, and sometimes they engage, and that's what's sort of funny. But I've not blocked anybody yet. There are people that I've muted.
They came looking for me.
Yeah.
So I'm fully aware of my white privilege, and I'm fully aware that I still have bias that I am working out.
Yep.
So they were ripping somebody, and I didn't quite understand. Last summer with the Black Lives Matter and the anti-racist and the George Floyd and all that, there were people who glommed onto that to try and virtue signal, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
And so they would put anti-racist in their handle, or Black Lives Matter in their handle, or something like that.
Yep.
And so someone came ripping somebody to look at this person, they've done this. And I'm like, well, maybe they're growing or trying. How do you know that they're a bad person? Why are you ripping them for doing that? And the reason they were honestly ripping them was partially because of that, but partially because they had 20,000 followers, and they knew if they ripped that person that they could get other people on their bandwagon.
There's so much of that. There's so much of that. Yeah.
So I
strike.
And so I stepped into not knowing.
It's weird.
When I stepped into that and said that, they're like, well, and they started spouting stuff, and I'm like, well, I'm sorry, I was just trying to understand why you were mad about them. Well, why are you centering yourself? Why do you keep using I? I'm like, well, I don't know. See, you did it again. And I'm like, oh no. I'm caught in this. And I'm like, boom. I deleted every tweet. I just
speaking about yourself in the third person.
I did the Homer Simpson.
There's one thing Mealy hates.
And I'm like, and having a beef is basically their job. So when they don't have one, they go find one, whether there's one there or not.
Right. Yep. That's a thing. Definitely. And
you gotta avoid those on Twitter.
Cantina. Got it.
Yeah, it is. It's that guy. Yeah,
you can
that guy at the bar
looking for some good music, and you'll find it. But if you want to fight, there's Greedo in the corner.
And there's a lot Twitter's a wilderness. It really is. It's this kind of it's the Wild West. When you look at all the other platforms, because the rest of the platforms, I think it's much easier to sort like Facebook. I find really toxic because I feel like there are people I know there. When they start getting problematic, it just feels worse. It feels so gross and hateful.
You're like, I know you're smarter than this.
Yeah, or maybe you're not, and I just wish you wouldn't do this.
I just wish you'd be quiet about your stupidity.
Yeah, exactly. It's just why are you saying that? I've hidden so many people on Facebook that I'm surprised that anything comes up in my feed. I'm like, oh, there's still people. That's weird.
And
I could refinance my loans. Thanks, Facebook.
I mute people that I agree with. Because I'm like, okay, you don't need to bang that drum every day.
That was do y'all listen to Talib Kweli's podcast, the People's Party? Kev, do you remember the episode where he talked to Hannibal Buress?
Yeah.
It was amazing. Like, and this was before Talib got evicted from Twitter. But Hannibal Buress is like, yeah, I blocked you, bro. Like, we boys, I love you, but you're toxic.
But I can't handle you. You're doing too much.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah, no, and I think too that there's there are people on Facebook that when I engage with them on Facebook and it gets it just gets chippy and annoying. If it's a friend that I've had for a while, I'm like, okay, this actually means I should probably just talk to this person, because I think the thing is that when you are engaging on a social media platform, you forget what this person actually is like in real life and vice versa. And then it's like, oh, okay, so I just talked to you on the phone, not even about what we were talking about. And I'm like, oh, that's right. Like, you're fine. You're not a weirdo and an idiot.
Yeah. It's very similar to, we see it in school. They are going to get in a fight with somebody in the cafeteria.
Yeah.
Because there's everybody around, and that's what's feeding it.
Yep.
I talked to someone that went to a school, and the school did this, but they had a legit fight problem at the school that was just nonstop. And so what they started doing is, if you are witnessing the fight, you got suspended.
Right.
And so what happened was, as soon as people would start barking, everyone would spread out. And then guess what happened? When you're barking at me and I'm barking at you and there's no one here to go, you heard what he said, what you gonna do? When that guy isn't next to you.
It's interesting. Yep.
The fight, it decreased.
There was no more fights. Cause there's no one there with the camera.
That's so interesting. Like, there's a way to kind of frame that as you're not going to be a bystander. Like, you're going to make a choice in this moment. That's interesting.
If they really wanted to fight, they could just go to the parking lot when there's no teachers.
Well, I think with
you could
dudes,
just walk down the street afterwards.
like
you're going to do it in the cafeteria because of the crowd.
Right.
Most people who start woofing and acting like they're going to fight just want people to know that they're that they are acting like they're going to fight. Like, that's usually what it comes down to. Very rarely is it actually going to be a thing.
Yeah. Right. Or they want they want a couple punches thrown, and then someone, hold me back, the hold me back guy.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, they don't want anyone to back down, even if they don't want to fight. They just,
Yeah, we used to, Kevin, did you used to circle with people? Like, when you would get up, you get your shoulder on their shoulder and you just kind of get off me. And then you push and then you're back up. It's
we've all done that the whole process. Do something. You do something.
It's a dance. It's an elaborate dance. It's a dance.
I don't think they're going to do something.
Yeah.
They're going to do anything.
Well, I mean, sometimes someone's going to do something, but usually if someone's going to do something, they do it. In my experience, when it's really going down,
definitely,
it's not a discussion.
No,
that's true.
I had a kid. There were two in my class the one time, and I don't know if she's a sociopath or she just enjoys fighting or whatever, because she was not raising her voice one little bit. She's like, "So we're just gonna are we gonna fight now or not? What? I know you've been talking about me to so-and-so, and I saw what you posted on TikTok, and da-da-da. So do you want to just fight now? Do you want to go out in the hall? When do you want to do this? Because I know we're going to fight." And I'm watching her, and the other girl was kind of
Saturday.
Well, the other girl's barking back and saying,
"No, actually, I have volleyball."
And so I'm looking at, so then her, friend is trying to get in between. And I look at him and I'm like, is she serious or not?
You're not sure what to do.
I need to take her out and let's separate these. Or is she just being funny? I've never seen this before. She's like, oh no, she's ready to, she's gonna kill her.
She's ready to throw.
And I'm like, okay, well, let's get you outside. And we had to get her and and then I had that teacher guilt. So the two of them were so annoying for the rest of the year. I'm like, I should just let it happen. I would have gotten 10-day break from the two of them. I should just step back and just let it happen one time. I don't need to want to get hurt. I just need just a punch thrown so we can just, I can have
Jeffrey Canada. Have you all read Jeffrey Canada's book?
No.
Fistic Knife
Gerardo,
Gun?
just so you know, I haven't read anything that you've read. You've read 17 times what I've read. So quit saying it. Have I read? Because I haven't.
I don't want to assume that y'all haven't read things. I feel like that's disrespectful.
That's nice.
You've all read books.
I have read books.
But
by the way, Gerardo has 8,000 books on the shelf behind him.
I have so many kids are like, wow, I like your background. I'm like, no, those are real books. Those aren't real books. They make them go and get them off the shelf and stuff. So Fist Stick Knife Gun is, Jeffrey Canada founded the Harlem Children's Zone. I first heard about him on This American Life, where they talk about, I think it was the one that's like crazy idea or like radical idea. And Canada's idea was that when addressing poverty, you can't actually address poverty for adults who are in poverty, like that you have to actually go to the kids and you have to be able to say to the adults in some way, there's not much we can do given everything, but we can help your kids break out of poverty. And that so it's kind of this radical view. I'm not sure how well it's aged in this day and age, but in his book, It's a History of Violence in America. And he really talks about how, and Kevin, you and I talk about this all the time, about how in some community, my community especially, there was violence, but it was regulated at first. Like the older kids would make sure that big kids weren't fighting small kids, and that if you were going to fight somebody, that they were somebody that it's okay for you to fight. They were a good match, like whatever, and that it would squash the beef, right? Yeah. And then as things kind of escalated, and it's the whole big picture of the advent of, shuttering of factories in industrial areas and the advent of crack cocaine and the gang activity that came with it. It just became a lot less than that. But, but it's interesting because now what we see, this is a theory I haven't tested or researched, but now what we see is that the type of cyber violence that's committed every day and the type of interpersonal violence that's committed every day. Like, I really think there's a lot of people that just don't have anywhere to put stuff. And, I'm not saying we need to go back to, okay, y'all are mad at each other. Let's just put on some gloves and let's do this. Like,
there's schools that do that.
Past.
Yeah.
But when I was a kid, like, I got in a lot of fights and,
I never got any fights,
but it would be over. After that, like it would be over. Yeah. And then sometime around 7th or 8th grade, if you were in a fight and you bested somebody, you were probably getting jumped sometime. And that's where I had to like start disengaging. But it is really interesting to think about like that kind of like where our society's kind of gone in that way.
I always try to tell my students that too. Like, oh man, I just want to fight. I'm like, look, nobody gets their butt whooped and then goes, well, I guess I'm good. Like,
exactly.
That's not going to be
anymore.
The end of it. They're going to come back.
Yeah.
Like, fighting them is not going to make it better. It's just going to keep adding fuel to that fire.
Yep. Yeah. Period.
Yeah. I was always the one with a loud mouth and a big friend. So.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
There was like 3 different guys, one in different schools that I went to. And once I learned in 5th grade, I kind of learned it like almost subconsciously, like, oh, if I'm friends with him, he thinks I'm funny and I can just straight up talk smack to anybody. And if they come towards me, he's stepping in front saying, this is
That's smart.
Yeah.
I had a big kid tell me once that you're either going to need to learn to fight or learn how to shut up. And I'm like, all right, well, that's pretty clear what that's going to be. Because I ain't going to learn how to shut up.
And you still have me. And it's gotten you so far.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah, in so many ways. Kevin will attest, though. He is a personal witness to my trauma as well.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to listen to Lesson Impossible, a podcast exploring educational innovation. Each episode, your host, Aviva Levin, interviews a new special agent or resource specialist who shares their unique field of expertise, such as teaching through gamification or how to avoid teacher burnout. You can find Lesson Impossible on all major podcasting platforms or at lessonimpossible.com.
So it's going to be equity or mental health do's and don'ts. And the don'ts should be things, and we kind of almost touched on this, things that people might think are do's, but actually can be harmful. And like something we like, you want to, think about is, is intent versus impact. So whether you can just hit one equity or one mental health, one do, one don't. Okay. So think about equity or mental health, do and a don't.
Yeah. So, I'll start with a do. One thing that I found, especially over the last like 16 months, was really a good thing to do with students is, you know, the mood meters. Those were like, I don't know, man, whoever owns stock in mood meters, I'm saying like they're balling right now. But for me, what I would do is I would do a mood meter and I would look at it. Most of my students would answer it, and I feel like they were answering it honestly. And I would look at it and be like, oh, okay, so, you know, Kevin's having a rough day. Mealy is what he always is, you know, like that kind of thing. And then I started actually sharing in really general terms, the results of the mood meter. So I started saying, hey, so I'm just looking at this and, you know, your names don't come up at all. So it just kind of shows, you know, on Pear Deck, how it's got the little lines all over. And I'll say, so I just want everybody to notice that everyone's in kind of a different spot today. So I think that as we interact with each other and as we learn to support each other, I think it's just important to realize that literally not everybody's feeling the same way that you are. And like, I just want to invite everybody to be aware and sensitive about this. And I don't know if it made any difference. I don't know whether it changed anything, but I thought that was a really good thing because it kind of created the kind of expectation that I'm actually going to care about the environment that is happening. I'm actually going to at least acknowledge what other people are experiencing right now. So I felt like that was a good do specifically for like SEL. One of the don'ts that I think definitely comes from a good place. Like I do think that it's really well intended. But I remember I was talking to 3 young African-American girls who were in my class, at the beginning of last year. So it was before COVID and everything. And Kevin knows exactly who I'm talking about. And they were sort of talking about all the people checking in with them all the time. Like, are you okay? Is everything okay? Did you have a bad morning? Is everything okay at home? Like all these kinds of questions. And I think they came out of genuine concern. I remember one of the girls saying to me, I don't know, mister, sometimes I'm just not in a good mood, and it's not for any reason. like I'm just, and so, you know, sometimes the students kind of feel like under the microscope because if you say, oh, I'm kind of tired because I didn't sleep well last night. Why didn't you sleep well? What's going on at home? Are you not sleeping well a lot? Is it, you know, and then if you say, oh, it's because I didn't eat breakfast. Why didn't you eat breakfast? Do you skip meals a lot? Like, are you getting all the meals you need? I have food. Do you want me to buy you food? And so it gets really overwhelming for kids. You know, and so it's one of those things. It's absolutely coming from a great place. Like Kevin and I will tell you that pretty much 100% of the teachers in our building love our students. Yeah. But it is one of those things where you're kind of like, okay, but we also don't want them to think that we only see them as victims of circumstance.
Right. So it's like the full swing. It's like they've gone from like, oh, being colorblind is wrong to going, so I don't want to be colorblind. So now I've got to you know, like ask.
And I'm going to associate everything.
So I'm going to ask every black person how the most recent, you know, shooting has affected them. And it's like, okay, you don't have to. And some of them it's affected them a lot. And some of them it's like, I'm more concerned about the new anime that's coming out or the video game update, you know?
Yeah, they're like, I don't know.
I'm upset about that.
I don't like my fit today.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Why are you in such a bad mood? I'm 15. I don't need a reason.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, well, because being a teenager
being a teenager sucks, and I'm in school. Like you don't need more.
That's true. That's true. All right, Janisko, you want to hit us with a do and a don't?
Sure. I'm going to kind of combine mine because I work with a lot of kids with special needs and speaking about like mental health and whatnot. Don't just give kids a pass for projects and work. Don't just say they can't do this or I can't modify this for them because that's not right. But do give it in a different way. I had, you know, kids who would struggle with their writing, with, you know, their focus, with all that. And you can get them to turn in the same work a different way. You can get them to record a podcast if sitting down and typing at a computer is going to drive them nuts. Yep. You can get them to just have a conversation with you in the hallway where you ask them the questions from the test and they can explain to you all the answers and you can still get it down. Don't just say, oh, it's okay, I'm just going to give you a 75. Like that's not acceptable. And same thing for your ELL kids too. And we know some of them are not in a place where you can give them a test, and that's not fair. And we know some of them come in speaking languages you never even heard of. You're like, what is Farsi? I get it. But give them something. Make them feel welcome. Give them something to do and work on and build on, and don't just let them sit there, because that's a really easy habit to get into for kids and teachers.
Yeah. It's like that's what I've heard referred to as that multiple points of entry, right? Like, so you have this concept that you are going to learn. And so you're going to demonstrate your learning within that concept, but there's lots of ways to demonstrate that learning.
Right.
Love it. I'm here for it.
Okay. Is there a don't you got to disco? Or that's a combined do-don't.
That was a combined do-don't.
Okay. Kev.
I'll go. I would say do continue to be patient with kids.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of movement right now where people were patient during the pandemic. Mm-hmm. I worry that patience is going to go away.
My kid's school.
The willingness to talk to kids and see where they're at. And I think understand that there's bigger stuff in their lives than what we put in front of them on a day, and work with them, to That's your point, Tedesco, work with them. What is the problem? What is the challenge? Why aren't you able to get this done? What supports do you need?
They're your colleagues. Like,
and how can
that respect?
Work with them together, right? And then I would say the don't is I think we got to stop making assumptions about our students. Mm-hmm. We have to really start to really talk to our students and know them, and not just say I know them because I'm like, oh, you like BTS, like
you're right.
No, I need to know you at the level that you want to know, like you want to let me be known, and it's not a force either. I think as we get to the beginning of the school year, a lot of teachers are going to force some students open who haven't been, like, we got a lot of students who chose the online option who haven't been in school, right? And so one of my big things is, like, these kids have found liberative ways to engage in their education. Mm-hmm. We have to start to understand that. We can't, like, crush that, right? We have to figure out how to leverage that, what they were able to do and accomplish outside of our space versus, like, and so, like, it's simple. Like, I think I had students who were laying down while they were on their class. Yeah. What's going to happen when they want to be a more relaxed position in my class? Mm-hmm. When they want to stand up and walk around? Yeah. How do I control, as a, Tedesco, as a middle school teacher, how do we deal with this space? Especially with kids of color controlling their bodies, right? And they've been free to be in control of their bodies. So I think we can't make assumptions. We got to work with the kids and leverage what we have and continue to be patient and just, I think work, just, finesse it, as the kids would say. Like, cause they're trying to finesse it. We're trying to finesse it. Let's finesse it and make it work.
All right. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to go with mine real fast then. I'm going to say it's going to kind of hit on a lot of things, but, do engage with your colleagues. Okay. Hold them accountable. Someone says something, that's off, say, hey, dude, ma'am, nope, that's, you can't say that's wrong. Or better yet, someone told me, ask them a question. Like, why do you believe that? Or why do you treat kids like that? Or why have you made that your rule in your classroom? And then also, but also know that they're just like the kids. There are a lot of teachers that are bringing a whole lot of trauma to school when they come in next year. That need that it's been horrible for them. That they feel like they are a failure. That they feel like they haven't been able to do what they love doing. And so know that we have to do that. So we have to continue to show them grace. And then so don't beat them up. You know what I mean? So do hold them accountable. And do give them support, but don't beat them up when you realize that, okay, this person is doing their best that they can, and they just need to be you need to back off a little bit until they're ready to receive whatever you think they might need from you. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it comes down to humanizing, right? Mm-hmm. Like if we just start humanizing the work, whether, for adults, for kids, for families, for communities, and I think that disrupts the sort of, we're going to make benchmarks and we're going to have academic growth and they're going to assess at a certain level. Like it disrupts that cycle. But maybe it's a cycle that needs to be disrupted. I'm not even saying maybe, it's a cycle that needs to be disrupted. And, if we're being asked to humanize our kids, I think we do need to be able to humanize each other as well.
Yeah. And our admins. Know that our admins are traumatized as well. We like to bash admin. It's fun to bash admin, but know that some of them, it has been absolutely horrible for them.
I wouldn't want to do that right now. I wouldn't want to do that right now.
So, boys and girls, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you again, Kevin and Gerardo, for coming through and go Mexico in the gold. Who are they playing?
Always so much fun. The U.S.
USA.
Oh, my parents are from there.
Go Tide.
It matters.
From the U.S., yeah. I think you all might have roots in the U.S., possibly.
Yeah,
I do, too.
yeah.
I do, too. It's
I
like,
root for Mexico.
Yeah, I hope it's a good game, and
I hope it's a good game. I hope there's no homophobia.
That is true. That is the one problem with the.
One of my friends texted me, like, he and I we're soccer texting buddies, and he texted me, he's like, "So what's your prediction for today's game?" I'm like, it's either going to be 0-0 and Mexico wins penalty kicks, or Mexico is going to lose 4-0 and get kicked out of FIFA. So we will just see how a small number of very vocal fans chooses to comport themselves. We have major things to address in our community, but
what community doesn't?
Yes, that's
true. That's
period.
Very true.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Mealy probably saw my tweet, and I want to see all these people being all sanctimonious, also like not be the ones that didn't defend Colin Kaepernick when he kneeled. So just saying. Intersectionality. That's it.
Right. That was in football, right? Not in football.
Yeah.
That was in football. Not
that was
football.
a black dude.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a black dude.
Yes.
Sometimes
you have to embrace your hypocrisy, though. You know what I mean? You gotta embrace your hypocrisy.
Lean in.
What are we without our contradictions? Fellas, it's so much fun always to catch up
we
with
love you guys. We love you guys so much.
Gentlemen,
right,
stay dope.
Yep, stay dope, man.
Stay dope.
Stay unprofessional. Thank you, and stay unprofessional. Stay unprofessional. Stay unprofessional.